I'm like, and not in these words, I'm like, pull your big girl panties on.
Mm-hmm.
We got work to do. We got 2 little boys in the other room. They're depending on us to be the best versions of ourselves.
Totally.
And so when they see you in the dumps or they see you in the tank for, a couple hours, a couple days, whatever it may be, you're having an impact on them too, whether you want to believe it or not.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Who Can Relate. Today, I have, again, another special guest, and I don't mean to downgrade that word special, but every single person I have on is truly that, and you're going to find out why with this one, because he has a lot to do with the person I am today. If you guys have enjoyed my book recommendations, he's the reason why, for probably 9 out of 10 of them. So without further ado, Mr. Spencer Hill.
Hey.
Welcome to Who Can Relate, man.
Don't believe the hype.
Hey, but no, with you, dude, believe it. Believe it. And also more context, everyone loved your wife Alicia's episode. So this is her better half.
Yeah. Well, she's my better half.
That's right.
Is the right way of putting it. But
there
yeah,
it is.
Extremely proud of her for stepping outside of her comfort zone.
Yeah, man.
And that has a lot to do with you and Shay and the conversation we had at dinner just before that. So thank you for that, and thank you for instilling the confidence and the power in her that she could do that and have that impact on people.
Hey. So yeah, but here you are today. So let's talk a little bit about you. Let me get some more background. Where you from? I know KC.
Yeah, well, KC area. I'm from a town called Emporia, which is literally directly in between Kansas City and Wichita. So hour and a half from each. So I'm in the middle of the United States. Emporia is a town of 25,000 people.
Wow.
One high school.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. You're driving down the street and you're giving the old everybody.
Yeah.
You know that person? Yeah,
of course.
I don't know. Probably. Odds are.
Yeah.
Great place to grow up. Love getting back and visiting there and seeing old friends and stuff. But that was kind of the start of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, grew up with my older sister Holly, who's still in the Kansas City area. All my family's still back in Kansas.
Yeah.
Just a nice little Midwest town to grow up in. For sure.
I hear you, man. And when did you get out to LA again?
I moved out here in 2001.
Okay.
So I graduated from K-State, got my degree in marketing and international business. Yeah. And by dumb luck, literally met a dude on spring break, and he was like, "Have you ever thought about modeling?" And I'm like, "No." I mean, no.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You should meet my agency." So I did that and started doing that.
And this was local in KC?
It's in KC.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what kind of jobs were rolling through.
That's
KC.
exactly where my mind went.
Like USA jackets, USA aprons, just like, that's funny. I still kept some of the.
That's awesome.
Back then it was like catalogs, like physical catalogs.
Totally, yeah.
But it was cool, and I was driving to and from Manhattan, where K-State is, and making good money, and then got to audition for a couple local commercials, and was booking them, and I was like, this is way better than putting on a suit and tie.
Totally.
And going to office every day, and so. Thus began my kind of career path into entertainment. And it's
how we met.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 2 years ago now, and we were on set, and now, and still a large part because of you, and now I'm more of a morning person. Back then I wasn't. And we had those, was it 2 or 3 day job or something? Yeah. And the call time was like, I think 6 or something, like to be there at 6, right? Oh man. And I remember, the first day I'm usually okay, right? The second day I'm like dragging, but the first day, man, you just had this presence about you. You were very knowledgeable, very intelligent, and, your energy and just kind of overall, just presence was very contagious, so we gravitated right away and had some, to this day, one of the best like jobs I've done, in large part because of the people.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of the hardest laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, like hard. Luckily, it was like a smiley job.
Yeah.
But I just, anyways. So we can go on and on. But just good times, and we've kept in touch ever since. Still working together, which is a blessing. And So, funny enough, when I was planning out, having you on the show, which was a long time coming, I remember I was like, I have a problem. And that is, I can talk about anything and everything with you, which everything to everyone is nothing to no one.
Sure.
So I'm like, I need to narrow it down. And I remember I was going through, the Rolodex of guests, and Shay was like, when are you going to have Spencer on? I'm like, you would think like I would have had him on so early, but I want it to be, perfect. I want it to be special. And
right.
I know he's so impactful, and I want to like choose the right kind of things. And after I had Alicia on, I was kind of like, you know what, I think I got it. And so how I want to kick this off is just, knowing where you come from with your parents, which for every one's, mindset is more than anything, just a cookie cutter background, like you were like the TV show I used to watch as a kid, and when I got to know Alicia, I was like, she's the complete opposite. And then my mind went to like, how did that happen as far as, a match made in heaven, know? So my first question to you is, again, coming from where you come from, this cookie cutter family, and then marrying someone who has the complete opposite upbringing as she so beautifully shared. How did that work?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I don't know that cookie cutter, maybe sometimes that can have sort of negative connotation. And as you know, I would never, never apologize for that, of course. My parents were absolutely amazing, and you're right in the sense of a family unit.
Yeah.
Having a man of character as your dad, who is a pillar of the community, leads with love, servant leadership.
Yeah.
He and my mom both kind of lived by that mantra. She was a guidance counselor for her whole career, and was just always involved, always nurtured everything that I wanted to do, any interest I had, any sport I was playing, and so. In that sense, it really was, I'm blessed to this day that they're still supporting everything that I do, good, bad, and ugly.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what instilled in me the self-confidence to make the move out here. Much to my mom's chagrin. I've been out here for 20 years. And I'm sure that if you asked her, she's missed me every single day.
Sure.
But it wasn't about me leaving there. It wasn't me about leaving anything that I had there because it wasn't right or it wasn't loving or it wasn't an amazing situation. It was about, what they'd instilled inside of me for me to go and now have the impact that I've had and have the family that I have had and had the career that I've had. And I owe everything about that to them.
Sure. Sure.
And to your point and to your question, with Leisha and I, when you meet somebody, number one, and I'm sure that she touched on this in her episode, what's kind of cool about your library that you're now getting, you're like, you can go back and listen. If you want to know more about my wife and I, you can go back to episode 6. That's cool.
For sure, yeah.
So it doesn't always have to rely on us, telling those stories. But I met her, and it was love at first sight, and it was fireworks, and it was the corniest thing you've ever heard of, but it was like, wow. And so for me, I knew right off the bat that she was the one. She's the one I'd been waiting for. She was my dream girl in every way, shape, or form. Sense of humor, looks, just her overall, the way she carried herself was like, wow, this is a really self-confident woman who has got her stuff together.
Sure. Sure.
And it wasn't until, going down, you don't do a deep dive into, oh, wow, here's the nitty gritty and here's the deep dark stuff.
Yeah.
But we both knew so early on that feeling of love and wow, I found my person was so mutual that we did get into it pretty early on. And so I would ask her questions, and she was like, I'm not ready to go there because I've been in relationships before where I've told guys this stuff, and then what they do is they flip it on me and they use it in a fight. They're like, oh, you're acting this way because this.
Right.
And so she wanted to kind of guard herself from that. But the more I learned about her upbringing, the more impressed I was with her, because so many people choose to just continue that vicious cycle, right? And for her, doing everything in her power to break that cycle was huge.
Totally.
And I think I told you the other night, it's like we used to say Alicia for president, because if she had the upbringing that I had, and people nurturing her her skill set and her her interests, I have no question that she would be like way further in her career path and in her self-development, whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting because as we talked about, with her, that a lot of people who come from that are just, they fall victim of being a product of their environment, and she is so motivated to not be, right? To be the opposite, to make sure that she comes out of that way better. As I had this saying, like you said, going through the Rolodex of episodes, something like, those might have been the cards that I was dealt with, but it's not the hand I'm going to play with,
right.
And Leash is definitely one of those. So, but I'm sure, again, as you guys started off early on, like you said, when the baggage was coming to light and the triggers and the old patterns and the past, the exes would surface, I'm so fascinated with how you guys handled that, because again, like, how you would kind of go about a problem maybe different than her, such as everybody, but more specifically with you guys, for your wife, and as she shared what she went through, there's a lot of things probably that you couldn't relate to.
Right.
So how did you adjust, and how did you allow her to really feel like she can trust you to confide in, and trust you that, you're not going to leave her, you're not going to judge her, it's not going to scare you away.
Right. I think that, I'm obviously still very much a work in progress when it comes to understanding what her background has done for her and her mindset. And I'm still, very much her cheerleader in every way, shape, or form too, because I see the path that she's on and the path that she's already come down, and I just want to be the best person for her, to be the best version of her, so we can continue to be the best version of our family together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me to try to understand what she's gone through, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Just like it's impossible for her to know all the ins and outs of my upbringing and what that was for me.
Yeah.
And so I give her a ton of grace, while at the same time I see the potential in her. I know how great she can be. I know the person that she strives to be every day. The difference between maybe the way my view of the world versus her view of the world is that my default is P, positive. Her default is negative. And so every morning, and I just heard this from somebody, I can't remember who it was, but every morning you wake up, you have a chance to tune to P or to N, right? And so my default is always P, running in the auxiliary, running in the background of what I have going on, and where hers is the exact opposite. So I don't discard the fact that the little things that I might consider quote unquote easy are sometimes hard for her.
Yeah, exactly. And that's perfect, because one of the main things that I also wanted to touch on was how, for me with Shay, there were a lot of times where she touched on last week in our episode, a lot of times where she really struggled giving empathy to my quote unquote problems, and my struggles in my childhood. She didn't necessarily think that they were the struggles to what she had, right? So how does a partner who, again, honestly can't truly step in your other partner's shoes, it just is what it is, as you said, how do you find the empathy? How do you find the balance in, just like you said, trying to uplift her so she can become the best version of herself? Because you hit like the fast forward button there with the solution, but what is the process to get to that solution?
Yeah. obviously empathy is huge. Empathy is huge in anything we're doing in life, is trying to seek first to understand and then to be understood, right? That's a Don Hillism right there. That's the way my dad lived his life. And so even though that's not the easiest when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in an argument and you just want to be heard and you want to get your point across and you want all these things, it's like you have to, step outside yourself and say, okay, we kind of reverse engineer it, and like, why is this person thinking like this? Why are they coming at me this way? Why are they addressing this situation like this? And it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to hearing her out and kind of getting to the root of the problem. Not that I need to fix everything, and trust me, Jay, I'm a work in progress on all this. I'm not saying it's like I do it right every way out the gate, because I've got 76 tattoos on my body that are literally reminders. I've got shovels, I've got pickaxes, that I'm still working on myself, dude.
Totally.
And that's one important thing to stress for sure. But going back to the potential part and going back to what I see in my wife, and she's enough as it is, but I know that she's striving to be more. There's a little bit, and I don't know if this is the right or wrong, and sometimes it gets a reaction and sometimes it doesn't, but there's a little bit of tough love there too, to where it's, listen, I'm big on refractory periods. I'm big on whether it's win, lose, or draw, cutting that refractory period down, okay? Because if you let the refractory period get too high off of a win, then you're just high off your own fumes for days.
Right.
And if you let your high, if you let the lows get too low off of a heartache or a failure or whatever, well, then that becomes your mood for days. And you're like, what happened? You're like, oh, this thing happened to me. When? 3 weeks ago? Wait, what? And that becomes your personality, right? It's like, it's one of those things. And so for me, I'm like, and not in these words, I'm like, pull your big girl panties on. We got work to do. We got two little boys in the other room that are depending on us to be the best versions of ourselves.
Totally.
And so when they see you in the dumps or they see you in the tank for, a couple hours, couple days, whatever it may be, you're having an impact on them too, whether you want to believe it or not,
And their little sponge selves are just sucking and absorbing everything.
And the older they get, the more that's the case. You get, it's like same thing with, you can't go around spelling SHIT around Parker because he's like, oh, I know what that is. Go wash your mouth out with soap.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And I loved what you said about how your wife is good enough. And I'm sure she'd say the same for you, right? And that's so important to, I really want to hone in here on this, is that you have to accept someone for who they are. Yeah. You can see the potential still, and you can be hopeful, and you can be optimistic, and you can help guide and uplift and empower your partner, right? But it's very important to find that balance of not necessarily changing them, right? Completely, because that builds resentment for that other person towards you, right? But just accepting them, meeting them at where they are, meeting them at their starting line, not yours, their starting line, right? And finding that balance. I know it's so difficult. I mean, for me and every relationship but my marriage, I just had this like.
And that's how you know that she's the one. I heard the episode, dude. You went through your stuff. You went through the mud and the muck, and you like, God bless the broken road, right?
Yeah, and God bless the fact that we can laugh about it now, right? Because
might as well laugh as cry, buddy boy.
Man, and I just and now here I am sitting in hindsight, right? Which is the funniest part. But you're sitting here in hindsight, and I'm like, one of my biggest failures, and unfortunately, it was a constant one. It's just that I was so determined, adamant, and stern about we are starting where I want to start. And I realized with Shay, who checked me, put me in my place, rightfully so, that's not how we're going to do things here. Yeah. Kind of like one of those things where it's like, what we're not going to do, right? And I was like, oh okay.
What's interesting about that, and what I've found a lot of people that I know who had childhoods that maybe a lot of things were not in their control. Yeah. Coming home to mom that's under the influence, or a dad that's going batshit or whatever it is, they spend a lot of their adult lives just trying to get control over everything.
Totally.
Trying to control as much as they can control, whether it's finances or getting, crazy in shape or
literally everything.
Yeah, everything. Everything. Yeah. And so luckily that leash does not fall into that category for me. At least that's not something I've seen in her. But going back to the enough thing.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you this before. I know that it's something I tell everybody. There's a point of power that comes with being content. Right?
Is that acceptance?
I don't know if it's acceptance, maybe a self-acceptance. I think that contentment, knowing the product that you bring to the table in your heart, as a man, as a woman, as whatever you're putting out into the world, is the most powerful thing you can have as a human being.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want contentment to be confused with complacency, because those are two very, very different things. You can be JD. I'm looking at JD as a very content man. You know who you are. You know the product that you're out there as a husband, as a dad, as a model, as a businessman, as a podcaster, as a whatever it is, right? You know that. And so that's not that there's a big part of that authentic you that is squarely yours, right? And so that is powerful. Yeah. It's got to be powerful. You hold your head up high, you walk a little faster, you know that when you meet people, you have an impact on them. Yeah. Whether it was a 5-minute conversation or whether it was a, hey, how's it going? You're like, who the
what was that?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so for bringing that back to Alicia, I want her to continue to get that contentment in her heart and know that she's enough, and know that the product that she puts out into the world, when she's feeling it, and there's you can tell, my wife is a very, very powerful soul, powerful presence. Yep. And when it's good, when she's good, oh boy, watch out. The world's going to set it on fire, Totally. And then on the opposite side of that scale, and I think that this can be said for anybody who's got a big personality or anything like that, when things are bad, you really feel it too. Yeah. And I always tell her, yo, mama, you're driving this ship. I would love to say that I am. I want to tell my boys that I'm the boss, and they just look at me like, Dad, you ain't the boss. Pops. You ain't the boss. As much as you want to say you're the boss, we'll give you it today. But that boss is over there. Right. You know what I mean? And that's fine. I love that, and I want her to feel that. I want her to know that. I want her to wear that hat as much as possible, because the more she knows and the more she steps into that leadership role, not only for our family but for herself, the more she can continue to grow. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. That's so powerful, right? It's empowering your woman, and also just checking her sometimes, like you said, she's going through it and her dial is on N for negative and yours is on P for positive. Right. Just trying to reel it back in, right? It's what a co-captain should do. Yeah. Hey, you're steering a little left here. Let me get you back on track here, right? That's beautiful.
And the only way to do that, as you know, is just modeling. It's by being the example. Totally. You can't come on, get on my level. Right. Hurry up, up. I used to do that because like I said, this whole the man I am, the person I am today, has a large part to do with the mentorship and the leadership that I accepted into my life a little over 3 years ago too. Yeah. Obviously in large part to beginning to my family, but I've got a handful of people that are my most trusted advisors that keep me accountable too. And so I'm still very much it's a learning process for me too. Totally. And so I don't fake the funk and want to sit here and say that I have all the answers.
No, but what you do, Spence, that is something that not a lot of people do is this. You have this beautiful way to balance both you improving on yourself while you improve in your relationship. Now, that may sound super simple to a lot of people, but it's not, because some people can only do one at a time.
Right.
You obviously did a lot of work before you met your wife, right? And then you continue to do it. As I said on, again, last week's episode, the work just doesn't stop because I found my wife. Right. It's like a different kind of work.
Right.
But
it should ramp up. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. But the train is still rolling. Okay. Yeah. And what you do is you have this balance of, again, working on yourself internally and what you need for you, but then also making sure you have enough energy and time to also learn and continue to learn your wife, right? Because again, like, the system that you guys have works for you guys.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, just think like, I want to do, if someone's watching this, like, I want to do what JD does. I want to do what Spencer does as a husband or as a partner. And you're like, yeah, but my man, like, that works in my household and it works in yours. It may, you can take bits and pieces and all that is just trial and error.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it's so beautiful how you guys have, and obviously it's not perfect all the time. We all know that, sure. and say in my household, right? But what is beautiful and amazing is that you, Alicia, me, Shay, have this ability to be coachable. We have this ability to adapt, to pivot, and most importantly, to want to be better.
Yes.
Right? A lot of people, I think, if they're going through it with their partner, I think the first question you should ask yourself is like, is your partner a part of that club of wanting to be better? Not just as a husband or as a partner or as a wife, as a partner, but as a person first and foremost. Yeah. Right. And that's it's really probably the biggest question I think people need to ask. So for you guys, I'm sure you can relate to what I'm have in my household, which is just like, we have that understanding of, it's not about who's right or wrong. Like, that's like the very immature, relationship.
Totally.
What it is what's right or wrong for our marriage.
Yeah. You're right. Our setup is interesting. We live together, obviously, with our two little boys, and we work together constantly. Yeah. We work out together. We're on set together. So our dynamic is just a family unit almost 24/7.
Totally.
And so a lot of people are like, dude, I could not be around my wife that much. Yeah. She's my best friend in the whole wide world, without a doubt. We have each other's backs, and with everything that we do, whether, we're talking about my upbringing, her upbringing, our goal is always just to have both oars in the water going the same way. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because that's a powerful thing. You get to take advantage of momentum. You're an athlete, you're a sports fan, and momentum is a big, huge deal.
Yep.
And so, and also both sides of momentum are a big thing. When you're backsliding and you can't, you're grasping at straws and trying to figure a way out, it's like, it seems like the sky's falling.
Totally.
And I think that a lot of people have a tough time getting out of that mindset. And for us, and for you guys too, I know that it's so much about equipping yourself with the tools to get you out of those places, because everybody's going to have them. Everybody's going to have down days. Everybody's going to have those, oh, damn, I shouldn't have done that, or I wish this wouldn't have happened. But again, going back to the refractory period, how long are you going to let that rule your next, 90 minutes, 90 days, whatever it is?
But I think what, next time I have both of you guys on, it'll be both of you guys on at the same time, because this is really good as we go back and forth with it.
That should be fun.
Yeah. I have my other question is, and this is, I know it's going to be big for especially women, knowing a lot of Alicia's background and where she came from, and specifically pertaining to childhood. I'm sure the one thing that is priceless, that she never will take for granted, and that she is so grateful for, is the fact that you provided safety for her. And I mean that in every sense of the word, right? Not just, you lock the doors at night before you go to bed. I mean like safety, that she can come and confide in you. She can come and be open and honest and transparent and say, hey, I'm going through this, blah, blah, blah. She, you provided a safety net in the sense of she can delegate to you. Back to that control thing, right? Like, we all have a little bit of control in us, but the beauty of a marriage, in my opinion, is the fact that I don't have to do everything by myself all the time anymore.
Right.
Like, you know, but that's the wild card of all wild cards. Like, oh, I can ask you to do something and you're going to do it with love and care like I would. Amazing. You know, so you providing that safety is, I'm sure, again, one of the biggest things in your marriage.
Well, you said you touched on a word, delegate, and when I think of delegate, I think of maybe like a owner of a company that has his blood, sweat, and tears invested in this. Yeah. And when, you know, sometimes those people can be control freaks and sometimes they don't know how to delegate, right? Because you always want the people that you delegate to after you've you know, talked yourself into, okay, this is too much for me. It's too much on my plate. I need somebody else's help.
Totally.
You want the person that you delegate to be an extension of yourself, your brand, your family. And so again, go back to the both oars in the water thing. I think that we complement each other very, very well when it comes to just vibing on the same wavelength. Yeah. You know?
Well, one of the things you said, and you went back to the sports analogy of momentum. The other thing I thought of next to that is chemistry. You know, in sports, it's momentum, it's chemistry, right? And it's obviously execution. But you can apply that same thing to life, and especially in your marriage. Like, you got to build that chemistry, pick up some momentum, and execute, and watch how beautiful, you know, it all works out.
And it's interesting, you know, we haven't really touched on, we're talking about Alicia and I specifically, but there's the whole other part of that is the parenting slice of the pie.
Totally. Let's talk about it.
And, you know, so when she, you know, her default sometimes is to go back to the way she was raised, although I have to say overwhelmingly it's not. And sometimes I, you know, go back to the conflict avoidance and conflict, you know, the things that I, you know, was not taught, but things that I, you know, manifested themselves in me. And so we have to have an open line of dialogue about that too. You know, sometimes I will lose my you know, like I said, it's like, especially this year itself is just like, you know, we're together 24/7. We are now first grade teachers tasked with keeping our kid on point, you know, on a Zoom call, and like the poor kid is tied to a computer for, you know, 4 hours a day. You know? And so all that ties into it too, where we're like, you know, our parenting skills have, I feel like, really evolved and complement each other too, because when I need somebody to reel me in, she's there for me, and vice versa. Because if we're both like pulling our hair out, you know, it's
what good is that going to do?
What good is that going to do? So we're very, very good at, honey, go on a run. Honey, go shut the door to the bedroom and go take some time for yourself, whatever that looks like. And both of us are really great at doing that and being able to hit the reset button and come back and being like, okay, I'm back. You know what I mean?
But see, that has a lot to get into that chemistry factor, right? You can sense that in her. She can sense that in you. You guys have that unspoken connection,
for sure,
you know, so to speak. Another big thing that really you know, excited me about having you on was, you know, I've realized the last year or so that I'm very much so a fixer. And my sole intention and reasoning behind it is just to help people.
Sure.
Including my loved ones.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to literally just either listen, be there physically, be present while you're there, and just let them get it out. But it's finding that balance, right? Of like, in your situation, when you met, you know, when you met your wife, but when you really got to know all that, you know, came with your wife, right? You, correct me if I'm wrong, probably wanted to fix so much of it. You probably had your toolbox, like, I can get to work right now. If you want me to, I can work overtime, you know, around the clock, whatever you need. And there's certain things, though, that you can't fix. Right. I realize there's certain things that I can't fix. I read the book, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And she talks about how men are so conditioned to fix everything. And when we can't fix something, we feel useless. We feel like what's my purpose here? Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about that and what that kind of means to you. And then when you can't fix a problem, and maybe it's because you're not the one to fix it. How do you adjust and how do you pivot to that?
Yeah. It's a funny story, and I don't think that she'll mind me sharing this. A couple, so, she doesn't have a relationship with her father and hasn't had one for a long time.
Right.
And so certain things are obviously triggers for her on that level, whether it be the relationship that she sees me having with our boys. Mm-hmm. We always go back to, gosh, we have so much love for these little dudes. There's no way in the world, that anything could tear us from them, and mm-hmm. She had some great times with her dad. She had some awful times with her dad, but the fact of the matter is that she hasn't seen him in over a decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're always like, man, how could you ever let that be your reality,
Sure.
And so sometimes, whether it was or whatever it is, or there's triggers, and sometimes I'll help her talk it out and mm-hmm. those things. And just recently she, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the instance, but she resigned to the bedroom. Mm-hmm. She was upset about something. And so I said to myself, I'm not gonna try to fix this. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna be with her. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I laid down with her in the bed, and I put my head on her chest, and she kind of like put her arm around me, and I just sat there. Mm-hmm. I just laid there with her, thinking that this is me not fixing things. This is me really stepping outside of my comfort zone and not. Totally. I ain't fixing shit right now. Totally. I'm just chilling. I just want to be there for her in the moment, right?
Sure.
And after, I was there for, 15 minutes, and she's just like, guess you didn't have anything to say about that, did you? I was like, I thought this was me being new age sensitive Spence and just being there for you in the moment.
Yeah.
So
you're like, no good?
Sometimes that backfires too.
Yeah.
And so, I guess like I keep on going back to, it's always it's a learning curve for me, and you find out what works in the moment and what doesn't, but it's mm-hmm. always a sliding scale. You know what I mean? And so there's no one size fits all solution to any of those things. But again, I always just, continually go back to the fact that my wife is enough as she is. My mm-hmm. wife, and I always just want her to know that, regardless of the situation, regardless if she's been triggered, regardless, what she's going through. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the things that she struggles with is, mm-hmm. am I enough? Am I doing enough as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as an actor? And she wears several hats too. So it's, as independent contractors, as people just out there just flying by the seat of our pants. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's mm-hmm. like as soon as the director yells cut, you're like, I got to go get another job. Totally. What does that look like to get my kids food ready for school, and to be a first grade teacher, and to hit the gym to make sure that I look like my pictures, so I can be an accurate representation of myself. It's a lot. It's pressure. Sure. It's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And so she does all those things amazingly. Mm-hmm. And I know that she'll be listening to this, and honey, you wear all those hats amazingly. So keep up the good work. And it always boils down to, am I happy? Am I healthy? Mm-hmm. Am I leading my family with light and love? Mm-hmm. And the rest, if you can do that, the rest is house money.
That's beautiful, because I myself am listening, like, I need to take that on. I need to apply that to my life. There's so many things that, the control bone in my body wants to fix, right? Back to that, and really wants to perfect, unfortunately. And, it's beautiful, again, how you have that mindset, that mentality of just reeling it back in. It's, and I know you're a huge person on gratitude, and it's just, what you focus on, you're going to create more of. Mm-hmm. You continue to focus on gratitude and things to be grateful for, you're going to have more to be grateful for, right?
Absolutely.
So I love that. Again, it's not so many times I think I'm just like fascinated by common sense, but
it's not that common, buddy.
It's not that common, 100%. And sometimes you have to take it back to, to the basics here.
Yeah.
I know that this was going to be fun to talk about when we had our pre-call about, the common idea of what it is to be a man, a father, a husband. And the first thing, I think that comes to a lot of people's minds is the provider, right? And mainly providing financially. But it's not always just about the financial part of it. Again, I said earlier, like you provide safety for your wife, which she'd probably take over anything, as far as what you can provide. And so I want to talk about that and what that means to you as far as when I say the word providing for your family, like what kind of comes to mind?
I think for me, financial is definitely a part of that, but above and beyond that, it's about equipping.
Yeah.
And you and I could probably be considered John Maxwell disciples at this point in time, because everything rises and falls on leadership, as he says, and whether that's leading an organization or leading your family. I just want to, I think the best way that I can provide for my family is instilling them confidence. Yeah. Instilling confidence in them that they can do anything they want to do, that they can have an impact, that they can be dynamic, fearless, thoughtful young men that can literally go let their light shine anywhere they go. And the same thing, while we're talking about parenting, same thing, applies to my wife too.
Sure.
And I think that for me, that's one of my biggest gifts. It is being able to impart that on people, and especially since I'm with them constantly, my family, and I don't do that by beating them over the head with lesson plans, whatever. I just try to carry myself that way. Yeah. Always. And I think that what I learned about being a man was not machismo, was not bravado. It was being a servant leader. It was being faithful. It was treating people with respect. It was putting smiles on people's faces. Yeah. That's what I learned from my mom and dad. Yeah. And not to ever discount the power that a mother has, but so much that's wrong with today's society is because of lack of father power. And father power was so prevalent in my life at every turn that I just want to do my best to continue to pass that along to my boys, so then they can, it's generational, right? Totally. And so the role model that I try to be, and again, I slip and fall from time to time as well. Yeah. I get angry. I let the situations get the best of me, but I don't let that drag on. I don't let that, I had a situation last night with the boys where they were being little turds at bedtime, and I had to raise my voice at them. And this morning I sat them on the counter. I was like, guys, that I love you more than anything in the whole world, okay? So when we're talking about decision making, when we're talking about, it's a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, what I mean? And sometimes I use verbiage, and my wife is like, "What? They don't know what that means." I'm like, "Well, I don't know how else to put it." Totally. But I'm just like, I reel it back in, and I want them to know that regardless of what has happened, or if they got in trouble, or if they got mad at their brother, that we are a family that loves each other and supports each other and cares for each other. And that to me is worth any sort of money, like dollar value. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I that being said, I want to live an epic life, so I'm continually pushing myself to stack chips, because I want to have a vacation house on a lake somewhere. I want to be the grandma and granddad that they want to come to, and all those things. And so that's a part of providing. But I feel like being that person, and the law of attraction that I'm trying to vibrate on always, those things will come.
Mm-hmm. But see, that's so important. That's why I asked that question. I think if a lot of people, heard me ask that, they're like, what the hell? Like, it's an easy answer, but at least to me, it's not. Yeah. Because I grew up I provide financially, and that's it. you know, so I've evolved, you know, since then, but it sounds like caveman era, but I've definitely evolved and figured out.
Still evolving, dude. I love that. That's what I like. That's what I love. I can't tell you how honored I am to be here sitting on this couch, dude, because I know that you're going to impact so many lives, and just really, really proud of the man that you become in the past 2 years since I've known you. You know what I mean? I remember sitting on the moho with you that day that you were talking about earlier, and like, man, you said like to have a man, an alpha male, a guy of your stature, be like, I'm looking for a mentor. I remember you saying those exact words.
Yep.
And to submit yourself to that, to submit yourself to somebody who has fruit on the tree, that is willing to kind of, you know, navigate that minefield, you know, you want to walk behind somebody who's navigated the minefield successfully. And so that's what mentorship is. And so,
and I didn't want the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You know, like I really did. I was like, no, I'll climb this tree and get the right fruit.
And that's what's important about mentorship too, is the mentee needs to, the mentor needs to know that you're a willing participant, and that you're willing to not meet 50-50.
Right.
It's got to be 100-100.
Totally.
And that's the only way that works.
You said something. I mean, man, I could have a whole entire episode of Spence's one-liner, Spence's gems, or whatever you want to call it. But one of the things that always really stuck in my head was, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I truly believe with that, and just manifesting, you know, my mentors in my life, you are one of them. It just all kind of came together, but I know it's because I was ready. Because luckily I met you when, it's all about timing, right? Luckily I met you when I did, because I'd have met you, you know, a couple months maybe before we did, let alone a couple years. We would have just had that surface friendship. Right. Hey man, I heard the Chiefs won. Oh, the Bears suck. And that would have been it. You know what I mean? So luckily there's so much more depth behind it, you know? And that's why I really not struggled, but I was really patient with bringing you on, because I was like, it's going to be amazing. And I just know I got to do my very best as a host to tie it all together. But again, I'm really glad you had that beautiful answer as far as, you know, providing back to that, providing, because there's so much more that men, you know, we can do besides just the financial piece of it. So if there's anyone out there, you know, as a husband or just a boyfriend getting ready to, you know, take that next step, there's so much more that we can offer, you know, besides that. It's constantly evolving and growing. One thing that I always, you know, anytime I talk about you to people is the light that you embody within you that just shines even brighter on the outside is, I said earlier, way early on, it's contagious. You know, it's a privilege to be around, especially in times like this, right? And I know that's kind of your MO, and you succeed in that, in my opinion, in any room you walk into. You are that light. But I also know that you're human. Yeah. It took me a while to actually find that out about you, but you are human. And I want to kind of talk about some of the days where maybe that light is a little dim. You know, if it's okay with you, I'll share a story about how, you know, we were on a job one time, and we had a long break midday. And I was just, you and I were on the porch of this house we were shooting at, and I was just kind of going through it. You know, financially, I was struggling, and here we were about to get married, and this was the first time I had to think about money in a long time. And I was like, thanks for coming out. It's the year I'm trying to get married. You know, like, where was this with you know, other girls I was with, you know, and I was really, you know, back to that providing thing. I was like, I like would love to just pay for this wedding in its entirety and just have Shay just show up. That's all I need. You know, just don't leave me at the altar kind of thing. I'll take care of the rest. And anyways, and I opened up and you know, was vulnerable with you in that moment, which is a huge testament to our friendship, because I'm trying to think. I think I only really got that transparent with my therapist. So it was you and him. And so, and you shared with me, you know, a story about when you could relate to that. And again, that was so nice to hear. I'm trying to think of more technical term, but just keep it simple. You know, it's just, it was so nice and refreshing is, I guess, the other word I would put to that. So if you, again, we just want to talk, I didn't mean to go on a ramp, you know, as I asked that question, but if you just want to talk about how sometimes that light may not shine as bright as you know it can. And what are some of your hacks, your routines that get you back to full brightness? Sure.
And just to give what you touched on a little bit of context, because you said that you only told that to your therapist and myself. Yeah. Very, very, very few people know that story that I told you. And so
appreciate that.
In 2016, and I'll give you the sort of the Reader's Digest version, when we were expecting Smith, and all the financial burden fell squarely on my shoulders, as it never had before, because with Parker, Leash was still working quite a bit. She booked a bunch of jobs while she was pregnant. In 2016, it was the exact opposite. Crickets for her, crickets for me, and we were like at our wits' end trying to figure out how we were going to make this happen. We're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to bring another life into this world? We can, you know, we have $46 to our name. And it was during a time where, you know, some of my friends will remember the Aveda campaign that I shot. And this Aveda campaign was like worldwide, like literally.
It's still in stores now.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, you have like a, you know, 5-story picture of you in Times Square. You're in, you know, Minneapolis, St. Paul airport, you know, 20 feet tall. Yeah. So people think that I'm killing it. I was on the Chase Bank ATM. So literally every time you go deposit money, there's Spence again. Yeah. So people are like screenshotting it all the time. Like, you gotta be killing it, dude. I couldn't rub 2 nickels together. It was crazy. Wow. And so what I did is I started driving Lyft. Wow. And not that there's anything wrong with driving Lyft. I respect that hustle, but it wasn't my first choice to be 40 years old, 39 years old, and driving a cab, in essence.
Totally.
And so what I decided to do is I was going to wake up at 5:30 every morning and drive Lyft from 6 to noon every day to stack chips. No, I wasn't stacking chips just to make ends meet. There wasn't no chips to be stacked.
Right. You're stacking those 2 nickels to finally rub them together.
I was just trying to figure out a way to keep myself out of the red. Yeah. It was the first time in my 16 years out here that I had really kicked around the idea of going home.
Wow.
I'm like, this is too much. I've found the love of my life. I'm ready to have my second kid. I can go do this somewhere else. I can go do something. You know, I was going to tuck my tail and go.
Sure.
And ended up booking a Mercedes commercial. And then it started airing right before Smith was born. And when I first saw it, I thought they were going to downgrade me to unrecognizable, because you literally see my pupil of my eye like that.
Sure.
I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
And a week before Smith was born, we got a big check, and it ended up running ran for 3 years and made $100,000 on that commercial.
Wow.
And that maybe that's dumb luck.
Sure.
Maybe that's dumb luck, but what I have to believe is that there was a point in all that where I was willing to do the hard part, willing to do what it takes, willing to drive people to and from work all morning in LA and Long Beach and South Bay and all these things, just like, oh man, I really hope I don't pick up one of my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
it's
man.
like every time that thing went off, I was like, oh man, I hope I'm not picking up one of my friends.
Totally.
And again, that's ego. That's pride. Yeah. That's whatever that is.
And it's natural.
Yeah. But sorry, that was sort of a long-winded.
No, that was a great story.
Intro to this. But for me, it's always about starting my day with gratitude. I've got some real world closeness to me, that people that aren't as fortunate to have a body that works. You know, my mom, my mother-in-law is a quadriplegic. She's been in a wheelchair for the past 7 years, and so it just like, you know, like the magic, right?
Totally.
Thank you for my right foot that works. Thank you for my left foot that works. And then starting my day and ending my day, which I heard you talk about in one of your previous episodes, is going through the catalog of what was my best part of my day.
Sure.
And I always talk to my kids about that too. What was the highlight of your day? Oh, this was good. This was good. It makes you mentally get in that place of gratitude where you're like, oh, that was great, but it wasn't the best. Oh, that was cool too, but it wasn't the best. This was my best.
Totally.
And you start your day with that, and you end your day with that. I've got a list of goals, specific goals, whether it be business goals, family goals, fitness goals, health goals, whatever, that I write down every night and I write down every morning. And so that's how I end my day, and that's how I start my day.
Yeah.
Physical fitness has always been a huge part of my journey, even as a kid. And so for me, having a healthy body that works, I never take that for granted. I try to push myself as much as I can. I'm 43 years old, and I still feel like I'm 25 years old.
Sure. It's amazing.
I feel here that I'm 25. I feel way
way wiser
up there.
Yeah.
Praise Jesus.
Yeah.
But feeding my body the right things, and taking time for myself. I started getting up at 4 a.m. 2 years ago, because my kids have always been early risers, and so for me to have them as my alarm clock just wasn't working out for me, because then I was scrambling trying to find time for me. I'm like, I didn't get a workout in. Sorry.
That's probably your workout.
I didn't get a workout in. I didn't get to read. I didn't get to write. I didn't get to manifest. I didn't get to pray. And as you know, setting your intentions and having that time for yourself to just recenter and focus and okay. And whether that's affirmations, whether that's a YouTube video, whether that's a podcast, right?
Totally.
Whatever the method to your madness is, it's vital. It's vital. And I urge anybody to find that recipe to start your day, because if you start your day with success, you got a much better shot at carrying that through than starting your day. It used to be, I wake up to Parker and Smith crawling in our bed. I'm like, okay, what do you guys want for breakfast? Okay, this, that, and then it's 9:30. And I haven't had my workout, and it's 12:30, and I haven't had my workout. Maybe I just shoved something down my throat because I was hungry, because I didn't meal prep, or I didn't do all those things that I know are recipes for my personal, not necessarily anybody else's, my personal success. And I just feed myself full of positivity, whether it's your podcast, whether it's Rob Murgatroyd's podcast, whether it's Ed Milet, Jocko Willink, The Rock. I mean, I devour all this stuff. Joe Dispenza. It's like Jim Rohn. The list goes on and on and on, because if you go down that road, you start to find little people that you're like, I never even heard of this guy,
Totally.
And it's all about overcoming. Listen, life is hard, period. And especially when you're out as an independent contractor, betting on yourself, where the way you put food on the table is to stand in front of somebody and have their subjective opinion of you be the way that you put food on the table. You better put your armor on every single day. And not to put armor on in the sense where you're hardening yourself to the outside world, but your armor on where you just let stuff bounce right off of you. You gotta bounce stuff. You gotta, you make a career out of hearing no when you do what we do. And I always go back to, if you bat 300 in the major leagues, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
3 out of 10 jobs.
Taking 7 no's is sometimes more than people can handle, but it's like, again, going back to the refractory period, just like, okay, next.
I'm so glad you shared that, because I have a pretty similar ritual, morning and night, and that all was created by the book that you gifted me, The Magic.
It's a good one.
The Magic is a book that is life-changing, if you allow it to be, right? Of course, you got to be in the right headspace.
Right.
And so here's some cool stories for some people. Everyone is always like, Justin, can you recommend some books? And dude, I laugh to this day every time I get asked that question, because I'm like, if you guys only met me, I can be very specific, before January 2019, I read a total, and this is like in my life, 5 books.
I'm the same way.
I know you are.
I'm the same way.
And this is through school. At least you got your degree. I mean, I'm talking like in life, 5 books. And one, if not two of those were Michael Jordan, you know? So it's like, and that's no offense.
The air up there doesn't count.
Yeah. No pun intended. Right. But and just like, I remember when I talked to you, that first job that we worked together, you were like, hey man, I got this great book for you to read. And I was trying to be nice and like respectful, and then not also exposing myself that I've read 5 books and 2 of them are Michael Jordan. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks, man. And I knew it was going to be as Jim Quick says, the book I gave you today in Limitless. He says, it's a lot of people have shelf help, not self-help. Right. And I was like, I'll just put this on the shelf with the rest of the book kind of thing. Yeah. And long story short, you gifted me this book, The Magic. And honestly, bro, the only reason why I cracked it open was because you told me it's a daily practice and it's very simple. And I was like, okay, I can do that.
Right.
I can definitely do that.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. And something also, just albeit I'll give it credit to the universe, that it told me it's time, and this is the book to start. And as it is, man, again, that book changed my life forever. It taught me truly what the word gratitude means. It taught me self-discipline. It continues to teach me self-discipline. It taught me how to be very intentional with everything. How you move, how you speak to yourself.
Yep. Most importantly. And so on, as I can go on. And I remember when you gave me that book, you said, more or less, I'll paraphrase here, that it was just a gift that keeps on giving. And I have gifted that book. Oh man, gifted and recommended is 2 different things, but I'll sum it all up at least 30 times. Yeah. It's my go-to for sure. And again, it made me think about that right now, because that's why I have my daily practice, my self-love practice, my meditation practice, my journal practice. I've heard of the word affirmation before, but I didn't really know what it embodied. And now I do. I take it very seriously. Mantras, again, back to intentions, etc. And then more importantly, manifestation. Yeah. And so, again, it's perfect to have you on, because back to that question that I always still laugh at, what do you recommend for a book? I'm like, what would Spencer recommend? It's just like, it goes hand in hand. And man, you've recommended some powerful stuff, and I know you continue to do. And the other book that I always recommend for people, which is just a very simple read, because it's a daily read, is John C. Maxwell's The Daily Reader. Yeah, man. You hit me with that, and there hasn't been a day that's gone by where I don't read that book. Yeah. I even, just to make no excuses, I got the not audiobook, but the book on the iBook app, whatever. Yeah. And just when I'm rolling, traveling and stuff, and so I've gifted that book quite a bit as well. And that book on leadership, man, and I quote him, if not every episode, at least every other episode. Yeah, he's the guy. Yeah. And the cool thing about whether it's that book or whether it's another book, whether it's the Bible, whatever it is, sometimes just having those habits can be enough. But you realize the importance of them. On the days where you're like, I don't really want to, okay, but I'm still going to do it. And it just smacks you in your face. Holy cow, this is exactly what I needed at this point in time. And that's why you do maybe those hard things or those uncomfortable things, like building those habits. Yeah. 100%. Is for those times that catapult you into, that next level of success, because it was exactly what you needed at the time. Wow. I love that you said that, because there's a chapter in the book I gave you that he talks about that, and what he breaks it down to is like, when the what hits the fan and your hindsight kind of goes out the window, you naturally subconsciously revert back to your training methods. Right. So the more you can craft your training methods, right, the easier it's going to be to get back up on that horse and to get that hindsight back and that responding instead of reaction, right? And there's a whole chapter in that book. I know you're going to really like it. Yeah, I can't wait. All right, man. Let's get into, again, I always say, like, this is the fun part, but all these episodes, man, like, we've been rolling off for a while. I could roll for another, 2 hours, man, with you. But this is the round of rapid fire questions.
Yeah. I always tell people.
I try not to make a dummy out of myself and like negate all the fun stuff that we've talked about so far. It's rapid fire. I hope I don't.
It's all good. I'll edit it out if you do. Or I have it the blooper reel. I'll keep it for the blooper reels. Okay. At the 100 anniversary episode thing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get into it. So the first question is, who is or was your role model?
My dad.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Sure.
Like for all the reasons that I mentioned before, he and my mom both. I'll lump her into that as well.
Sure.
But as a man, as a father, as somebody who wants to create a legacy, sometimes that just kind of default your male figure, and for that has always been my father.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, he and your mom raised you right, brother. And it's, again, anyone that knows you and has you in their life, it's a privilege. It's an honor.
Thank you, buddy.
Question number 2. What was one situation in your life that you would consider life-changing?
Oh, let's see. Life-changing. Well, the moment I met my wife was without a doubt life-changing. It was the quirky, the goofy, love at first sight situation. But I'll backtrack almost 2 months to the day before that, when I found out that the girl that I was with before was cheating on me.
Wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so I picked up all my stuff, left that day, moved into the house that we actually live right next door to now.
Oh, wow.
But I decided that day that I was going to let myself feel pain, feel hurt, feel upset in any way it manifested itself, and be okay with that, so I could move on.
Yeah.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
Because in my past relationships, what I'd do when they fell apart was party.
Sure.
Was spend money I didn't have. Was find any way to appease whatever I was feeling, and instead of doing that, instead of trying to mask that, I was like, okay, this is your chance to feel that, and process that in a mature way, so you can come out the other side better.
Totally.
When my previous relationship had fallen apart, I had some serious heat built up in my career. I'd just been on a bunch of TV shows, booking commercials like crazy. And so when that fell apart, instead of refocusing on me, refocusing on that heat that I had in my career, I did the opposite, and it fell apart on me. Yeah. Got dropped by my agency, got dropped by my manager, and really had to kind of start over career-wise.
Wow.
And I knew I wasn't destined to repeat that, same cycle.
Damn. Well, I mean, I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can say that you're better for it. Right?
Oh, dude, it
always.
Was, I owe that girl and the guy she was cheating on me with a huge debt of gratitude, because even though it sucked at the time, it's like the biggest blessing in disguise of all blessing in disguises.
Totally. I got a little funny story, actually, speaking of blessing in disguises, and I think a lot of people would like this. I'll say it. How I started modeling. A lot of people don't know this story. I'm sure I told you, but how I started modeling was a blessing in disguise. And I always say I need to thank that person, because little did he know what he catapulted, right?
Right.
I was 18, 19 years old, driving to a concert, and I was on the highway, and I was switching lanes without my signal. And I got pulled over, and he gave me a ticket. And so I go to traffic safety school to take, to lower my insurance rate, because it goes up, right?
Right.
Take it off my record. And while I'm in this traffic safety school, there's a model scout, little did I know, that was just like eyeballing me the whole night, and it made me really uncomfortable. I was like, you just feel like someone's staring at you.
Yeah.
He was just like laser beams, and I was like, what the hell? And we were on break, and I was on my phone. He came up to me. He's like, look, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable or anything, but I actually think you have a future in modeling. Here's my business card, And at the time, I was living with my sister, and I threw it on the kitchen table. I was living in the basement, and the next morning I woke up and they had it. My sister had it in her hand, and she's like, "What's this about?" And I was like, "Some guy, I don't know. It's probably a scam. Wants me to be a model." And I could care less about taking photos, but I still kind of do now, but definitely back then. And she's like, look, I don't know anything about modeling, but I know that the name Ford is a pretty big name in the game. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you give him a call? What do you have to lose? I had like 3 or 4 jobs, to hell when I was doing my life. And long story short, it was a blessing in disguise that I got that ticket that day. And I always say, I wish I kept that ticket. I would send that guy like a thank you card on the anniversary, 15 years later.
Yeah.
So
we still have the piece of printer paper that I wrote to Alicia's friend that she came into the bar with that night that says, thank you for introducing me to my future wife. And we have it framed in our bedroom.
Dude, I was going to say, you got to frame that.
Yeah,
wow.
Dude, it's framed.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, crazy.
I think I'm doing things I have a little box, but it ain't that much, dude. All right.
You're setting the bar high in other ways, dude.
Man. Thank you. So rolling along, what do you want to be known for when you leave this earth? So think legacy.
Mm-hmm. Kindness, character, vision. I just want to be known for, it just all boils down to when people are at my funeral or when they are talking about me, I just want them to always remember the way I made them feel.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about the creature comforts or the things that I hopefully will be able to accomplish in my life. It's about the way people feel when they left whatever interaction that is with me.
Sure. It's beautiful,
and
man.
I think that's it, man.
Yeah, well, you do. And again, I said that earlier in the episode, singing your praises a little bit. And I remember when Shay was going to finally meet you, there's not that she said this, but I can sense that she was thinking it, that I can't wait to meet the man, the Spencer Hill. Like, that's how much, I hyped you up, and I know I knew you wouldn't let me down. So yeah, man, you're doing it. All right. So question number 4, and this is the first time I've asked this question on the show, but it's very fitting because, again, probably the sole reason why I'm a reader now is because of you. So yes. My question is, give me like a top 5 books that have either changed your life, you'd recommend, or all the above?
Yes. Okay. Number 1, it goes without saying, The Magic, The Compound Effect,
okay,
The One Thing, Failing Forward, and the one that I just wrapped up a couple days ago, Atomic Habits.
Wow.
Dude.
I've read 2 of those, and I have the other 3 on my shelf.
Yeah, good for you, man.
So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all those, and you can I gauge the level of impact that they'll have on me, or that they're having on me, by the notes that I'm taking, by how much I'm highlighting, and by how quickly I get through it.
Yeah.
And those 3, and I've read probably upwards of 60 books over the past 3 years. And those 3 books just immediately, like you said, that's why it's called Rapid Fire, right? They stood out to me.
Nice. I'll make sure I include those. If you guys are watching, they are listed below. And if you're listening too. Okay, last and final question for you. What do you admire most about you?
That's a tough one.
Take your time.
I think that we've touched on it already. I think it's my positivity. I think that there's lots of things that I've gone through that I always default to switch into the P channel instead of the N channel, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
So being positive and always being a value add anywhere I go. We know the people that come into the room, and you're like, oh, here comes so and so, and I always, we used to joke around with Leash, and she's like, why do you? Because I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Whether it starts at 9 o'clock and I'm in my PJs. She's like, you're going to put on pants and go to that thing? Why? Because I said I would.
Right.
they're not going to know if you're there or not. They're not going to care. Yeah. And me, maybe this is an ego thing. It's like, oh, they'll care. They're gonna care.
But it's the most humble response. But yeah, totally.
Trust me, they'll know if I'm there, and they will care if I'm not there. You know, and so I say that because I feel like I have something to add. I feel like whether it's a laugh or whether it's I feel like people want me to be there.
Well, they do, brother. They 100% do. And you've actually shared that story with me before, and they'll know I'm there and they'll know I'm not there. And that is another one of the many stories you've given me and shared that resonates still to this day.
You kind of want to be that person, right? You don't want to be the person that's like, oh, who they were like, were they there? I can't really remember. He was there, and he made an impact.
Yeah. Well, this is the perfect segue into the next segment of the show, which is I take this time to acknowledge my guest. And man, I'll be honest, again, it's like one of those things where I could go on and on and on, and I really struggled with like kind of narrowing it down. But I came up with a few things, and hopefully you'll appreciate them. I'm so glad you had that answer of just that you're such a positive person, that you leave an impact on people. Because again, my life, and I know I can speak on so many others who, have the privilege of knowing you, is better because of you in it, man. Like I'm telling you, there's so many, like, what would Spencer do thoughts in my head weekly. I promise you, like, Shay, my wife, thanks you, for being in my life, because she knows how much you've had an impact and how much you've helped me. Your constant, contagious energy, man, is the most beautiful thing that I have come to know, and I've again just really just been honored to be able to witness it. There's a few people in my life, and I know a ton of people, and there's a few people that I've come across in my life, that embody that, and again, you're definitely one of them. You are a very high on the list mentor of mine. I look up to you as a father, as a husband, as a professional, and just an overall man. It's so important for me to have you on here because a lot of what these people see and hear on a weekly basis is in large part because of you. So the fact that people can see, one of the main reasons why means a lot to me, and they can hear means a lot to me. And again, I could go on and on. I don't mean to just ramble right now, but one of the things that I'll leave with and kind of hang my hat on is I love you, man. And when I say that, I know for a lot of men that's probably hard for them to say. I don't tell all the men that mean the world to me that I actually do love in my life. I don't tell them I love them. I'm getting there. It takes some time for us men to do that. But with all my heart, bro, I love you, man. And I am just honored and humbled and just super back to gratitude, grateful, man, to know you and have you in my life. So yeah, I wanted to end on that. So people are probably getting their tissue box ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I need one, bro. I need one. I thank you. I humbly thank you. Those are kind words. And as I said at the beginning, don't believe the hype. But
nah, man.
I don't consider myself one of your mentors. I consider myself your equal. You've had just as much of an impact on my life as I've had on yours. I assure you of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people find you? I know I've already put it in the episode, but what do you want people to know that you're working on? What's next? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. I was telling Pete a little bit earlier about some of the stuff we have going on at Spence Hill on Instagram. Had a clothing line for 7 years now that just kind of, not, I wouldn't say flailing, but it just hasn't really gone anywhere. And so I'm pivoting off of that and have a business partner now. Mm-hmm. And we are very excited about a new project. It's kind of hush hush right now just because of the current climate. And we want to protect our intellectual property, so to speak, up until the time it's ready.
Totally.
But very, very excited about that. It's going to be launching in the first part of next year.
Yeah.
And then we've got our team building business where we teach and coach people how to build assets online through their shopping dollar, and that continues to be our kind of exit strategy that we're able to help and impact young and old alike. So that's going to be our way to leave the hamster wheel income that we're on right now and be able to focus on, like I said earlier, living a value-based life and just stacking chips for the next generation.
Totally, and getting that vacation house on the lake.
That's what's up.
I hear you, man. I'll make sure I link all that. Guys, thank you so much for listening and for watching. This one was really near and dear to my heart, and I'm so happy you guys can be a part of it. Literally, you were like a fly on the wall here, as Spence and I do what we always do, which is just share some great stories, and ultimately, the goal of every episode is to help people. And I know every time we wrap that we do, but this one is up there for me. So I appreciate you, brother. I love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It was an honor and a pleasure, and looking forward to having the better halves on.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
That was fun, man. Let's make it clap.
That's for when I edit.
I know.
Man, dude, learned that the hard way. Peter's episode, I didn't clap because it was so early on, and it took me 2 hours to sync the audio with my mouth. It was like a anime, old 90s Japanese cartoon for a while. I was just like, yeah, and today I did, I was just like, oh, I gotta fix this.
It's a learning curve, buddy. Right, you're doing great. Keep
Appreciate
up the good
you, bro.
work. Yeah, you got
it. So I always kick it off with intentions for every episode, and man, I'm so honored and humbled to have you on, brothers. It's like kind of a dream come true, honestly. You were like high on the list of people I wanted to have on, and super excited. I know it's gonna help out a ton of people.
Yeah, so. I'm excited to be here too, man. I've heard every episode, and I was just listening to to you and Shay yesterday on the way here.
Oh, nice.
And just what an amazing communicator you are, and I know that you're like you said, it's a learning experience, it's a growth curve, but just being on that path and being able to, have a very firsthand view of what you've become since I've met you and what you are becoming is
thanks, brother.
It's good stuff.
We'll save it for the episode because we're not rolling yet. This is bonus stuff.